Hello, and welcome to another episode of Automate Office Work. I'm your host, Justin. Today's episode is Automating Privacy Compliance with Marianne and Roel from the Netherlands. I have them as guests today. All right, you guys. So, would you guys like to introduce yourselves? Let us know how you came to be here.
Yeah, sure. Shall I start? Cool.
Up
So,
to you.
my name is Marianne de Vijter, and I've been working as a legal and compliance counsel for more than 15 years. I've worked for companies like Philips and Heineken and Deloitte and UPC. I've been really specializing on the GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulation, that helps, that makes sure that every personal data that's being processed by companies or by organizations or by the government is done in a private manner, like making sure privacy compliance is embedded. Um, well, before I'll talk a little bit more about how and why I'm actually automating that work, I thought maybe it's good for Roel to also give a short introduction about himself, because I
Yeah,
can go on and on and on.
exactly. All right, thanks. So, hi everyone, and thanks Justin for having us. Really excited. So, my name I'm Roel Wessels, and I'm CTO and co-founder of Awesome Compliance. My background is in engineering, but a pretty different type of engineering, civil engineering. But my whole life, my whole career after my master's degree has been revolving around basically applying the latest new technologies that come up over time, combining it with data and creating better, more efficient, more fun solutions. So just to give an example, back in 2010, 2015, narrow AI, of course, was the thing. So at Deloitte Consulting and also after at other companies, I've been working on automating, for example, revenue management in vacation rental companies. So that kind of automation. But the core thing is new technology, data improve something, and that's also what we're doing here now with Gen AI. Is pick a new technology, pick an application that can hugely benefit and disrupt something. So that's a bit about me.
And how did the two of you meet? Were you looking to do this and you found each other? Or did you find each other first and you got to talking? And you were like, we could disrupt all of this.
So we found each other quite a while back ago, already since high school. And I'm really happy that Roel's also joined Awesome Compliance Technology. I started also compliance technology with my first co-founder, Dick Sterk. He has a really, really, really strong commercial background. And then, I'm me being a legal counsel. But obviously, if you want to automate something, you need somebody with a technical experience and technical background. So we're really happy to have found Roel last year to also join also compliance technology that he decided last year to also join Awesome Compliance Technology. Because in my work as being a privacy counsel, I just noticed that a lot of the work that I'm doing is repetitive. For example, if you have to complete a data processing register, I don't know if everybody ever heard of this, but there is this obligation in the GDPR and the General Data Protection Regulation that any personal data that you process, you actually have to map that into a sort of table. Then you have to say, okay, I'm processing for this purpose, let's say for marketing communications, I'm processing name, email address, interest, and then I'm using this technology, and then I'm doing it of this the subject, and then the data is being hosted here, and then there are all these sub-processors. and then I'm having this contract, etc. And there's just so much that you then have to add into such a register, and you have to do this of all of your processing of personal data, and that's so much repetition is in such a handling of filling and completing such a register. And then this is a minor thing of making sure a company is being compliant with privacy laws. But it's, yeah, and I was like, okay, we can automate this, because working in clunky tools that are out there, that actually meant that I had to sit in a call with somebody from the business who has all the information about the personal data that they're processing in a certain system. And then I have to sit down with that person, and then I have to tell them, open the tool, and you now fill in all the answers. And with this question, you have to say X, and with that question, you have to say I. And then, 45 minutes, maybe 1 hour, 30 minutes later, we have that register completed. And then I had to do that all over again, every day. I'm like, okay, let's build something for this. So this is one of the things that we're building, and yeah. So I'm kind of wrapped in what I actually wanted to say. So Justin, ask me something.
No, maybe it's also something to add, because it's a very interesting explanation. Actually, as a sort of let's call it the survivor of that type of work, right? But I mean, as a like you're schooled as a legal expert, but the work you're doing, albeit at a very competitive salary, or a competitive, how do you say that, high salary and high fee, for example, as interim, is basically admin work plus some legal decision making. But I think the key point is what you were describing. If you look at that whole process, you see the engineering thinking here. So if you look at the whole process flow, if you divide it up into several steps, and basically the purpose and activities in each step, then the vast majority of the work is actually data collection, right? It's basically getting data from a business process, actually from a person or a system that has the knowledge about what needs to be in that register, extracting that and putting it into a system. So 80% is just data entry, data collection. And only a very small part of it is actually the legal decision making. The legal decision making, I think Marianne can explain it a bit more. But let's say in a high level, it's about deciding whether the legal ground, the legal basis for processing that data is actually solid. Let's say, but that's only a very small part where your expertise, where you have years of training, is being applied. I think this is just one of the examples of areas within the whole broader scope of compliance where just let's say solid automation helps, and then on top of that, with new Gen AI, actually parts of that decision making can also be automated, and also parts of the data collection that are typically harder to do. So maybe an example. Let's say the best case to let's stick to the example of the register of processing activities. That's what Marianne is talking. It's one of the features on our platform. It's called ROPA, the abbreviation. And adding an entry to a ROPA can be, that's what we're building, as simple as basically saying, this is the name of the vendor that I want to add to the register. And our agent will look up the URL for that vendor. It will crawl to the legal pages and the product pages, and it will figure out things like the privacy policy, any security documentation, etc. We'll start to structure all the information and the attributes that are required in that register. and basically have the human just confirm what it has found rather than doing the collection and the data entry manually itself. So just an example where automation plus an agentic layer can really be powerful in saving time. And well, I would even almost say this is basically a bit of fun, saving lives. We actually work with a former privacy officer who basically quit his job because he couldn't take it anymore, and went on to become a UX developer. Wanted to do some fun, and now he's actually part of our team because he's the perfect person to work with, right? Like having dealt with the pain. And now on really on the team of solving that pain for hopefully many others to come. So
I could see pain before that also, like the person who's developing a product, and then they need to come to you to do this hour-long thing that they have no idea like what this process is going to be. Maybe during the interview, you ask them uncomfortable questions that maybe they don't even want to answer themselves. And they're like, I don't know the answer. I need to go to someone else. I need to stop this interview, go find it. I can imagine that if you were to add AI in here, AI is infinitely patient. It can explain to the person on their level so that they understand exactly what you're asking from them, right? Without the ego problem, like, oh, I'm talking to a human being, I'm talking to a lawyer. Already that is scary for most people, right? They think lawyers are very smart and I'm a stupid person, so I will look dumb. Yeah. So I can see
done something wrong. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I can also imagine that there's another step after this. You're talking about getting like these business agreements in place. A lot of data privacy, from what I understand, it goes even forward then to the end user or to like the patient in a hospital. And they have rights also that you need to fulfill under the GDPR. So for them, or even like you were telling me, like you can have an agent crawling and understanding all of this text. I was thinking, every time I go to a website and I have to say, I accept cookies or something, or I have to say, yes, I agree to the privacy policy. I've never read the privacy policy. And even if I did, I can't understand what it all says. But if I had an agent that could read it for me, that would be very nice. So yeah, I'm seeing pain. You're talking about pain at your place. There's pain before, there's pain after. There's pain. Everywhere is pain.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you're totally right. And so in our platform, we are taking into account, the business that has a lot of pain indeed in completing this. There is also then immediately the way you're able to also then, for the person of whom you're processing the personal data, you're also really clearly able to help them out when they are having when they are making when they are applying their rights to access of their personal data. But the thing that you just explained, that you just pointed out, that you can also use AI to actually make it more clear in the privacy notice on their own level. That's actually really, I didn't think about that. So it's a really good idea, and also really cool to also add such a layer to it. Because we are also automating for the business to actually write the privacy notice. Because if you have all of the data, of all the personal data that you're processing as a company, if you have that readily available in your register, an LLM then is really good at actually putting that into words, right? To put that into the exact paragraph. So we're making sure that we're providing, okay, which paragraphs do we need? How should this be structured? But we didn't think of a tone of voice just yet. And it would be really cool if you then can indeed embed the privacy notice on the URL of the company itself, and then have a person who wants to know more about personal data processing that takes place, so the person of whom you're processing the personal data, and then say, okay, this is my age, it could be a senior, this is my educational background, and then
This
make
is my
sure,
native language.
yeah, it's my native language indeed. And that's really nice. And that's something that we can, add to our roadmap at one point. Who?
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, like a person goes to a URL, it's in a language already. Either it's Dutch or maybe English alternative if we're in the Netherlands. But what if a person's the native language is some other language? The AI could translate your data and then write it out into whatever human words are comfortable with for that person.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, and so one of the things that we are like on our platform in general is, of course, we want the quality of the content. It needs to be really high. So the example that Marianne gave, where we would generate a privacy policy based on the register of processing activity, starts from a template. So that's the template is governed by us to ensure quality, and there will be let's say templated fields where the information about the processing activities will be inserted. So when we design these solutions that are partially powered by AI, we really strive for keeping things as little AI as possible, because that's the areas where there's also the most risk of things going wrong. But then, let's say once you have a template that has been sort of instantiated into let's say the end document where all the template fields are filled in, there would be a pretty good example of using AI indeed to translate, or maybe even translate and change the tone of voice from, let's say, something, let's say, legalese to the actual language of the user. Yeah.
This is perfect. I really like what you're saying. That you use AI in an appropriate way. That you're not just saying, "Hey AI, can you go make up a template?" You don't know what it's going to say, right? Or just go have a conversation. You don't know what it's going to talk about, what it's going to say.
No.
But if you give it a template that you've already predefined, and maybe, it can just change the words a little bit to match what the person needs. This is a much better way. It's not going to hallucinate an entire question.
No. So
you
I
have
think
basically a script.
Correct. So basically, I think a script or a workflow or well, in the tech terms. Yeah, well, basically what you're looking at is a graph of decisions and content. So basically nodes and steps in between. And the purpose, well, not the purpose, but I think the best practice that is emerging is indeed trying to get any workflow down into the smallest possible, let's say, atomic units. So smallest units that you can't really divide further. And try to make them non-AI, and only where you need to apply AI to fulfill your use case, there you're applying it. That's at least how we look at it.
Yeah,
nice.
Justin also has a lot of knowledge on automating, and I'm curious to know what your thoughts are about us having this process. But so I'm now interviewing the interviewer.
Yeah, watch out!
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, we're switching.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm a fan of what you're doing. I think it makes it. It's making the world a better place for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We're all surrounded by data and all these companies that want our data, and you might even complain they're making it in a way that's unclear, so you don't even know what they're doing with your data. So I applaud you guys for it's taking away that pain from everyone. So thank you. I do like, this is the first that I've heard that there's a registry for processing activities. I really like that, and I also heard that it's like in a table kind of a form. So it's
So
not
Yeah.
just longhand written out in these sentences, but like there's a table of data and it's organized data.
yeah, that's actually what the law requires you to have. Yeah, and then so I think it's a good thing that the law requires you to make such an overview, because the reason for having that in place is, well, if you have no clue of what personal data you're processing, you also cannot abide, you cannot apply the correct privacy rules. So you first have to start with knowing what is it actually that I'm doing as an organization. But having that clear is super painful, especially in bigger organizations. In smaller organizations, it's a little bit easier. Yeah, and then that's the starting point. So from there, you're also going to say, am I actually applying privacy principles like data minimization? And for such a thing, you can also use our roadmap, because then you have to answer questions like, do I actually really need to have all of these personal data categories to pursue my goal? Or could I actually also fulfill, well, let's say marketing communication with only an email address? Do I really need to know the person? Do I really need to know his or her income? I'm just saying something.
Mm-hmm.
And these questions you have to apply, and then you can also make sure you're registering that you're accountable for those kind of decisions. And all of that is what we put in our platform, so that you can make a really good decision. And there are so many companies out there who don't have a privacy officer on their payroll. They cannot afford to have this. And we're able to help them out with our structured roadmap, making it really clear for these companies what they actually need to do. And it sounds like it's a lot of work, and it is. But what we're doing is making sure that they can have a structured approach, and at the end, that they're comfortable knowing that they've done everything they need to do in order to meet the GDPR.
We turned it
Um,
into a process.
and Yeah, and normally, this has been my job always. So normally, this would take me months for a company, and now we can do this in 1 week, 2 weeks. And that doesn't mean that they're fully compliant, like that they're really doing everything in compliance with the GDPR, like that they have applied privacy by design. But they know now what they need to do in order to apply privacy by design. And they have all of their policies in place. They have all of their procedures written out. They've been able to train all of their people. So they're in a much better shape, and it won't cost them a lot of money, and it will also not take them a lot of time. So I think there can only be winners after this.
Mhm.
I was a lawyer inside of a company when GDPR was first implemented, and so I was confused, like many people. It was all over in the news. GDPR is here. It's very big and scary. So what I did was I went and I read the actual legislation. It's only like 200 pages, so I read all of it. The main thing that I got from it is that a lot of things are not clear. A lot of it is you must be reasonable and you have to do what is necessary to the minimum amount, kind of things. The feeling that I got was you need to at least approach it with a plan. You need to have intention. You at least need to think about these things. And I understand that from your process, you are helping people to think it through, to make a plan. Because if a regulator comes to you, the worst answer you can give them is, oh, we never thought about that.
Exactly.
You need to have some reasoning of why you're doing things in a certain way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
That's
Maybe-
around accountability. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
maybe what we found also, which was interesting for me, because when I first sort of approached this problem, I also had was looking at this problem through the lens of the regulator and the risks for companies not being compliant. But what we actually really notice is where we have most traction currently is also with smaller companies that are not yet compliant, but they are not using our platform strictly for being compliant to account for regulatory risks, but rather they want to sell to enterprise customers or government, and they demand certain levels of compliance and proof from those companies. So the interesting dynamic that you see is regulation is not only let's say from the authorities, but actually also inter companies, where they use it as a method to gauge trust and sort of levels of professionalism on different factors. And of course you have that on security, which is where we help as well, but also on things like privacy and the EU AI Act.
I like that.
Yeah.
So you could actually use your tool possibly to gauge other people's privacy policies. Maybe you could give them a rating, and then like my example, that as a consumer, I'm very confused reading these. Right?
Yeah.
You could maybe start rating that like this is a bad one and this is a good one, and then these companies would say like, thank you for letting me know this.
Yeah.
And then they can put in their advertising to their customers like, look, we're very clear in how we treat you and we respect you.
Yeah,
That's
look,
nice.
Awesome Compliance told us this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I see similar things in the legal area. You know, people complain that contracts are very confusing to read. And not only that, a lot of contracts, you can't change them. Like if I make a contract with Microsoft or Google, I can't change anything. I'm too small, right?
Mm.
And so it feels very unfair how they treat me.
Yeah.
So there are the companies that are approaching them and saying, look, I will use my AI or whatever to assess and give you a score. And then you can let the customers know, like, look, we treat you fairly. We're going to treat your private data with respect. And this could be a very high selling point, you know? If I'm a consumer and I have a choice between two services, I'll go with the one that I can trust and respects me.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, we haven't thought about this use case. It's an interesting one. What we did think about, and we're not applying that yet, but it's something that we could do in the future, is basically using the same concept, but then other way around. And that's basically benchmarking to what extent you as an organization have implemented certain controls or policies, where the idea would be, deciding on how to execute a certain compliance program is partially a risk-based approach. Marianne can tell about that a bit more. Mm-hmm. But by looking at the different risk levels that you accept, and benchmarking that against your industry or sort of competitors, that might give you some sort of confidence about what you're doing, whether it's, let's say, enough or maybe below the standard or just on par. But realistically, as a startup, you're not doing the same things as an enterprise company, and you probably shouldn't. So using, let's say, a database indeed of all the information that we have on our platform to score and compare could be something that's interesting. We're not doing that yet. There's also some privacy or, let's say, confidentiality concerns if you have small numbers in your statistics, but it might be something that we would look at later.
Cool. Yeah. And your company is Awesome Compliance?
Yeah, awesomecompliance.com.
Yeah.
And so I do see a lot of like vendors that are offering services in the space of data privacy, data management. Like there's I think it's like Trust Arc and like
Mhm.
One Trust and all these
Mhm.
companies that manage the cookies and things. Like they're actually managing the data. And what I get from you guys is that you're not actually managing the data. You're helping to create the policy that then drives the data management that the companies do themselves or somewhere else.
No,
Do I get that right?
we are managing the data. So
Okay.
we're not doing the cookie. So we're not having cookie consent banners like TrustArc has. But we are then managing these registers that you need to have in place. So we're helping out with making sure you have everything up and running. So so any compliance framework, regardless of whether it's a GDPR or if you're talking about the AI Act, they all follow the same building blocks. So it starts out with risk, risk appetite. And then from there, you go into your policies, you go into your procedures, then you make sure you have all of your assessments, then you make sure you have everything documented in registers, you make sure that you have the correct contracts in place that meet GDPR requirements or AI Act requirements. You make sure you have all of your notices in place where you explain everything towards your data subjects. And then you make sure that you also have your training and awareness in place so that you can actually make sure that everybody in the business knows exactly what these policies and procedures entail. And these are the building blocks that we have in our policy. In our tool,
Platform, yeah.
in our platform. And then we use agentic layers for you to actually complete all of these steps. So to complete all of those building blocks and then to keep everything updated, because it's one thing to have everything in place, but it's such a pain to have everything updated. Yeah. So that's in a nutshell what we do.
Yeah. And the building blocks that Marianne refers to are the cool thing about it is that we've indeed found that these apply to many regulatory and also, let's say, certification bodies like ISO. That's of course not mandated by law, but it's a certification standard that creates inter company trust. When you say, okay, I'm managing my security in this or that way, and I'm certified, then the other side knows, okay, we can trust that the data that we're sharing with them and that they process on our behalf is being protected in the right way. And there again, you start with policies and procedures, asset management registers, things like that. So it's very similar.
Yeah, exactly. So we start with GDPR and actually also the AI Act, but we're now already expanding into ISO certifications and other regulatory frameworks because they follow the same building blocks. But
Correct.
it's really nice to be able to tell you and your audience about this. And we're on a really great journey building everything. We're not done yet. And we will continue, and we're aiming to close multiple companies, clients. With this, we already have quite a number of clients, but we are aiming to help out
Is your market only in
so
Europe?
many other companies. So far, we only have European companies using our platform, but it could also be used by companies outside of Europe. But for now, we're only offering European legislation, but also we're also offering ISO certification. So that's already outside of Europe, right? ISO 27001. You can use it in Australia or in China or.
Mm-hmm. And we have a customer actually from the Middle East, but they are operating in the European market. But so they need to abide to the consumer laws there. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a project once where I automated data privacy. It was consents for patients inside of hospitals because we had employees who were selling like medical equipment. Maybe it was a medical device that would be implanted inside a patient, with a surgery or something. And so the salesperson, often it happened that they had a cell phone camera, and there was something very nice happened, like maybe a very, very good surgery. And so they wanted to take a picture of the patient, and they wanted to then be able to distribute this picture or this video to other salespeople, maybe for education, for like a sales meeting, or even advertising. Possibly is in the realm of possibility, right? So the data privacy team, they approached me because they knew that I automate things, and they said we have these salespeople all around the world in all these different countries, and we have data privacy specialists in all of these countries, and right now they're keeping a spreadsheet of everything. And I thought, oh my goodness, at least it's on a spreadsheet, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they asked me, can you help us to optimize the spreadsheets so that we can efficiently manually do everything? And I said, guys, no spreadsheets. We're gonna convert this all to databases. And what I did was I gave them a form that we put on our internal website, because it all starts with an internal employee. So when they wanted to take a picture of this person, I had them go to the webpage, and it was a form. And we made it very, very simple, because for this situation, we knew exactly what kind of data they were collecting. It was an image. We knew exactly what they wanted to do with it, marketing or maybe some publicity or inner educational. So just those three things. So the form then just asked, what is the patient's name and what is their email address? And when they clicked on submit, it all got packaged into a PDF, and it got sent to the patient for digital signature. And on that form, it also had the URL to the company's website / like data privacy or consents. And when they went to that URL, it explained their rights, that they could get copies of their data, and they could withdraw consent as well. And when they hit that URL, it went to another form that just asked, what is the email address that we have on record for you? And when they put in their email address and submitted the form, we had an automation in the background that looked for any of our consents with that email address, and it's emailed them that list. And then in that email, they could download each one, and then there was an icon next to each one to withdraw. And so if they clicked on withdraw, we automatically, it created a task for the person who originally created this consent, the original salesperson, because our thinking was, we have no idea where this picture is being used.
Yeah.
Legal, data privacy. Yes, we manage the consents, but we don't manage the actual data. So that has to go to marketing or education or wherever it's using it. And so that person had 30 days to remove it. And once they went and deleted it from whatever other database, they would come and they would say, I confirm that this is done. And when they clicked on that, an email went to the patient letting them know we're all done.
Nice.
So you see how much we automated this.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could. I think one. I'm always thinking of AI solutions, but you could think about, because I think in the image, the main thing also is whether the person is recognizable, right? So if it's I mean, as a, let's
any
say, as
tattoos
a consumer,
or something.
Yeah, exactly. Or even your face, if it's like a facial surgery. So I think also tagging an image to basically identify the probability that it's an identify human would be a nice example of applying AI. I'm just being the engineer here. Sorry about this. Yeah.
But we also had these kinds of issues, like we found that there were like 600 different ways that even like an X-ray could have data on it. because X-rays naturally have data on them, but every country is different, and every country is going to have different language and different characters of what data is. And we found that in one of the X-rays, there was like a man, and he was wearing some kind of a military kind of a necklace that had his identification on there, and it had his name and his rank. And the AI was not able to catch that because it's not used to that kind of personal data in an X-ray.
Yeah.
So funny things can always come up.
Yeah. So we're not going to be out of jobs. But we don't have to do those painful things anymore.
and I'm so glad that that you two had the imagination to come together. I'm hearing that that Marianne had the imagination that we don't have to just live in pain. There's things that we can do. We are agents ourselves. And you were able to meet up with Roel, and Roel has a different way of thinking, right? He's not just thinking in the traditional way that lawyers do things. He comes at it with like civil engineering, like how do I design this road better? And then those same principles you can apply to this other area of thinking in law. So I'm really liking how you guys have come together. I would recommend that our audience keep in mind these same kind of things. You never know where innovation is going to come from. So stay curious.
Stay curious and make sure everything becomes awesome. That's why we are naming it Awesome Compliance.
Awesomecompliance.com.
Yes. Thanks so much, Justin, for this great podcast.
Could you guys leave some words to there are other people that are going to be in the audience. These are people who are brand new to automating, or they have a dream also. Maybe they feel like they're surrounded by pain. What can I do? What would you recommend to them?
So I would recommend them to think about that pain and think about what can you do in order to take away that pain? Like, what are the steps that you're doing? Which of those steps are the most dreadful? And then work with somebody, like you, Justin, or like Roel, and see, what is actually possible to take away that pain and make it more awesome. That would be my takeaway on that side. And I know, Roel, about you?
So I'm hearing that you don't have to do it all yourself. You can meet other people who have different skills, the skills that can help you.
Exactly. And they would also be helpful, helping you guys, helping you out if you have that kind of pain, because they don't know the experience of that pain. So you have to be really clearly communicating on the steps that you have to do, because if you cannot communicate what it is that you exactly have to do, we cannot automate it.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so you really need to have strong domain knowledge about the problem and the intricacies and the edge cases. And then indeed, well, at least the way we're approaching it is with engineering mindset, which I explained. You need to take a problem, divide it up in sub-problems, find the smallest, or let's say, try to reduce it to the smallest atomic single problems. And then pick the ones that are the most painful and the least effort to automate. Start there and see if you can work your whole flow. And hopefully at the end, everything's both automated and high quality. And there will be steps that you can't fully automate or want to automate. And that's where we have humans in the loop. Perfect. Let them do the stuff where they can add value and that they're way more better equipped to handle than pure automation alone. So that would be my advice. Yeah.
Nice. And is this a common path for civil engineers? Because I imagine you're used to working with like city planning or something, like transportation routes. I don't know what you do exactly, but it's not necessarily software kind of stuff.
No, definitely not.
This was a change for you.
Yes, but it already started during my days in university. I had a own software company. I actually thought civil engineering was too slow. The physical world is a lot slower than the digital world. So I'm really glad that I ended up in the data and software space. It's a way easier and faster way to help people with new innovations. That said, I mean, what I was trained for example, was building. Let's say, well, we're based in the Netherlands. One of the things that we're pretty good at is protecting ourselves from the sea and the rivers. So that has been my sort of my background, and I do think it's really important that we have amazing people also spend their time on that. So I don't want to how do you say that? Downplay that one, exactly. But for me, it was not a very fast moving industry, let's say.
Well, I'm glad that you guys found each other. You were able to pivot your careers toward this area, and it sounds like you are able to have an impact and help many, many people in this area using the principles of automation and just organizing the data, and then putting the human touch onto it. You're having an impact on the people. So thank you to you both.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, your website is awesomecompliance.com, correct?
It is indeed.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I'll close the episode then by saying to all of our audience, just please follow your passions, be creative, stay curious, connect with other people across disciplines, and happy automating.